What's up guys, welcome back to CS2 Daily. I hope you're all having a great day. First off, sorry for the break. I've been feeling pretty rough the past few days, but I'm back now and ready to catch you up on everything from today at FISSURE Playground 2. And it was a huge day. G2 survived a scare against GamerLegion. Virtus.pro cling on to eliminate 3D Max. The Mongols shut the door on FaZe. Liquid edged Tyloo in a tense 3-map battle. Furia rolled past Pain in the Brazilian derby. And Astralis send Legacy home in straight maps. A lot went down, so let's break it all down. So G2 have locked in their spot at the Belgrade arena, taking down GamerLegion 2-1, but it wasn't smooth sailing. Overpass was up first, and let's be real, it continues to be G2's nightmare. They've now lost 3 straight on it, and this time it wasn't even close. Torsen pulled off a sick 1v3 and the whole GamerLegion plan just clicked, while G2 looked completely out of ideas. Even Hunter admitted afterwards they just don't have much experience on the map, and it really showed. And then we head over to Ancient, and it flipped the script. Matters had the best map of his career at a big event, dropping 20 kills in a 13-2 stomp. Honestly, it wasn't even competitive, and G2 just rolled straight through them. And that heads us to Inferno, and GamerLegion put up a fight, but Mattis stayed red hot with a 1.59 rating. G2's quality showed in the end, even if their post-plants and anti-eco rounds looked a bit shaky. They closed it out 13-10 and booked their place in playoffs. Saw even admitted the team's energy levels are a bit lower after back-to-back events, and you could see it at times, but when Mattis and the boys are firing like that, they still got the job done. G2 clearly have a big overpass problem, and that's something they need to fix before playoffs, or it will cost them against the heavy hitters. But at the same time, seeing Mattis pop off like this is huge for their confidence. He looked like the real deal today, and if he keeps that up, G2 are going to be scary in the arena. Take a look at the stats from after the game. Mattis sitting at a plus 17 with a 1.34 rating. Sumpires at a plus 10 and a 1.15 rating. Mabs MD with a minus 2 and 1.15 rating. Hunter 0 with a 1.05 rating. And Heavy God with a minus 4 and a 1 rating. Over on GamerLegion, we have Rez at a plus 2 and a 1.08 rating. Torsen with a plus 1 and a 1.01 rating. And then Kurzi with a minus 1, 0.99 rating. And ZTR with a minus 19, 0.72 rating. Pretty bad series from him. And PR with a minus 8 and 0.95 rating. Next up we had Virtus.pro versus 3D Max, and Virtus.pro are still alive in Belgrade after taking out 3D Max 2-1 and pushing themselves into the 2-2 decider pool. It started on train, Virtus.pro's pick, and honestly it was way closer than they'd have liked. They only closed it in the final round of regulation, and it took a monster performance from 17-year-old academy stand-in Turo. He put up his best rating since joining the main team, a 1.62, and was basically the reason Virtus.pro scraped that map. Very, very impressed from this kid. But 3D Max answered back hard on Inferno, and this map wasn't close at all. A 13-5 blowout with Gravity, Exercise, and Body leading the charge. Virtus.pro looked completely flat, and for a moment you thought this could be the end of this tournament. Which leads us to Dust 2, which was the decider, and it was a absolute roller coaster. Virtus.pro won the pistol, only to immediately lose to 3 Glocks, a P250, and a Scout. It was really, really embarrassing. That put them down to 6-1, and it looked like another choke was incoming, but they steadied the ship, kept it tight all the way through, and once again closed it out in the final round of regulation. Fame and Flip both showed up when it mattered, and Virtus.pro survived. So, 3D Max are officially eliminated after that hot start where they upset the Mongols, but then dropped 4 straight maps to FaZe, GamerLegion, and now Virtus.pro. A brutal fall-off. Virtus.pro still look shaky. They've needed every last round in both of their wins, and that's not exactly convincing heading into a do-or-die decider. But at least they're showing some grit, and honestly, Turo having these kinds of performances is a huge positive. The kid is proving he belongs at this level. So if we take a look at the stats after the series, Exercise over on 3D Max's side, Exercise with a +3 and a 1.12, Gravity with a -1 and 1.12 rating, Maka with a +2 and a 1.04 rating, Lucky with a -1 and a 1 rating, and Body with a -9 and 0.86 rating. Over on Virtus.pro side, we have Fame with a +8 and a 1.29 rating, Turo with a +5 and a 1.04 rating, Flit with a +3 and 0.97 rating, and then Perfecto with a -10 and a 0.94 rating, and IC at a -4 and 0.78 rating. Which leads us to the Mongols versus FaZe, a very spicy matchup indeed, and the Mongols are back on track at FISSURE Playground 2, booking their spot in playoffs with a 2-1 win over FaZe. Mirage and Ancient went their way, while Inferno was the only slip-up. Starting on Mirage, FaZe almost pulled off the comeback, but it was Senzu running the show early on. He just completely dominated that first half, and even though FaZe clawed their way back on T side, Mongols held strong to close it 13-11. Inferno told a different story. FaZe actually looked like they had it wrapped up at 12-8, but they started fumbling man advantage rounds. Luckily for them, Brokey was ice cold when it mattered. He picked up multiple clutches and dragged them across the line 16-13 to keep the series alive. Inferno told a different story though. FaZe actually looked like they had it wrapped up at 12-8, but they started fumbling man advantage rounds. Luckily for them, Brokey was ice cold when it mattered. He picked up multiple clutches and dragged them across the line 16-13 to keep the series alive. But Ancient, that was all Mongols. They absolutely destroyed FaZe 13-5, and it looked effortless. Senzu was right back at his best, cutting through them and showing why this team is so scary when he's firing. Mongols have shaken off that rough opening game and now look like they're heating up at a perfect time. Senzu was unreal today, and if this version of him sticks around, they are a nightmare matchup in the playoffs. For FaZe though, the story feels like the opposite. Strong start to the tournament, but when the pressure ramps up, they just don't have that extra gear. These are the stats from after the series. Rain with a +14 and a 1.34. Brokey with a +5 and a 1.05 rating. Frozen with a -8 and a 0.92 rating. Jacob with a -11 and a 0.88 rating. And Carrigan with a -21 and a 0.78 rating. Really bad performances from Carrigan lately. I understand he's IGL, and I've said this before, man, but like, regardless, he needs to shoot. And over on the Mongols, we've got Senzu at a +23 and a 1.49 rating, Blitz with a +2 and a 1.13 rating, Techno with a -4 and a 0.99 rating, 910 with a +5 and a 0.96 rating, and then Mazzino with a -7 and a 0.86 rating. Which then leads us to Liquid versus Tyloo, and Liquid are still alive at FISSURE Playground 2, eliminating Tyloo 2-1 and grabbing 101 VRS points in the process, enough to push them into projected major invite territory, and that's a massive win for Soy's squad, especially with this being Twist's last event before heading back to FaZe. Starting on Ancient, Tyloo actually came out swinging. They broke Liquid with a 4 spy early and built up an 8-4 lead thanks to some ridiculous multi-frags from MongolZ. But then Twist just decided it was his server. 3 different 4-kill rounds on CT side, shutting down full buys and pistols alike, and he ended the half with a 2.32 rating. Liquid ran it back with 13-10 on his shoulders. Inferno though was all Tyloo. Liquid threw away a string of man advantage situations, and MongolZ once again punished them, this time on Banana, where he dropped a 2.47 rating with triple after triple, even a flashy quad spray down. Tyloo locked the map out 13-9 and forced a decider, which was Mirage. And on Mirage, both Nerds and Twist got rolling early, but Liquid still kept giving Tyloo life with sloppy late rounds and losing another 5v3 to pistols. Luckily for them, Ultimate stepped up big when it mattered. His 2 triples in the late round sealed it, closing 13-8 to send Liquid forward and Tyloo home. Twist was the difference maker here. This is his farewell run with Liquid, and he's playing like a man who wants to leave on a high. For Tyloo, it's a disappointing exit after that huge international breakthrough earlier in the season. They had their moments, but against a team like Liquid, you can't keep wasting advantages. Moving on, we had Furia versus Pain, the Brazilian derby here at Playground 2, and honestly, this one wasn't even close. Furia absolutely cruised their way into playoffs with a 2-0, 13-4 on Inferno, and 13-10 on Dust 2. Pain basically shot themselves in the foot early. On Inferno, they lost to a 5-7 force in the second round, and from there, it was just a steamroll. Fallen and the boys never really looked back. And then on Dust 2, it was the same story. Pain losing to another second round force buy, completely killing their momentum. They had a brief moment where Big Uzera called some fast paced rounds and they strung 5 together, but once Furia got the rifles out, it was done. Yuri and Yakinda were dialed in, MongolZ looked sharp again, and it feels like this lineup is really finding its stride again. Meanwhile, Pain just completely looked outclassed. I mean, if this is the level Fury are going to show in playoffs, then they're absolutely dangerous right now. The way they're punishing with pistols and then snowballing is classic Furia chaos. And it's the kind of style that can crack even the top teams under pressure. I mean, we've got teams like Vitality that have already said that they look at Furia's plays because they're very innovating, and they've copied some of their strats. So that just goes to show, and it says a lot coming from a team like Vitality. But nevertheless, these are the stats from the series. On Furia's side, we have MongolZ with a completely monstrous plus 19 and 1.35 rating. Yuri with a plus 16 and 1.35 rating. Yakinda with a plus 7 and 1.18 rating. Fallen with a plus 6 and a 1.03 rating. And Keserato with a plus 3 and 0.96 rating. Over on Pain's side, a complete red carpet here. Davidus with a minus 15 and 0.69 rating, NQZ with a minus 13 and 0.82 rating, Snow with a minus 14 and 0.93 rating, and DGT with a minus 3, 1.05 rating, and Big Zero with a minus 9 and 1.05 rating. So yeah, pretty abysmal stats there from Pain and a disastrous series from them. Which then brings us to the last match of the day, which was Astralis versus Legacy, an elimination match, and Astralis came out with a point to prove. They took it 2-0, 13-8 on Mirage and 13-8 again on Nuke, and honestly it looked a lot more comfortable than their shaky opener yesterday. Mirage started a little rough with Astralis losing to a force buy, and Sadzin actually found some good impact early on to get Legacy a 5-2 lead, but once Astralis settled, it was one-way traffic. Hooksy and Stare kicked things off with some multi-kills, then Device just took over. He dropped 6 multi-kills in that map alone, and Jabby chipped in with some key entries. And Astralis went on a 10-round streak and completely buried Legacy. On Nuke, Lux and Lato gave Legacy a fighting chance in the first half, shutting down outside, and A executes to get them ahead 8-4, but when Astralis flipped to CT, it was lights out. Stare was unreal, 167 ADR and a 2.30 CT rating. That's about as dominant as it gets. Astralis strung together 9 straight rounds and slammed the door shut. Device said after the game, it feels a lot better than yesterday, and you can see it. This team with Manchester back in the mix is starting to click, and they're now just one win away from playoffs. From my perspective, this was the Astralis we expected. Strong fundamentals, Device finding impact, and Stare stepping up in a big way. If they could keep this form, they're not just a playoff team, they could actually make a really deep run here. Looking at the stats from after the series, we've got Device at a plus 13 and a 1.43 rating. Stare with a plus 14 and 1.42 rating. Absolute monster series from the both of those. Jabby with a minus 1 and 1.06 rating. Magisk with a plus 5 and a 1.01 rating. And Hooksy with a minus 10 and 0.85 rating. Over on Legacy side, we have Lux with a minus 11 and 0.75 rating. Demal with a minus 8 and 0.8 rating. Nissim with a minus 1 and 0.92 rating. Lato with a 0 and 1.01 rating, and Sad's in there with a -3 and a 1.02 rating. So that rounds up the matches from today, and it's the last round of the Swiss stage tomorrow, and it really doesn't get bigger than this. Every single match is do or die, win and you're in the playoffs, lose and you're out. The pressure couldn't be higher, and honestly, this is when teams show their true colours. We've also got Liquid versus FaZe, which is going to be absolutely insane, with Twist going back to FaZe, for we don't know who he's replacing yet. And as a result of today's matches, they will be knocking either one of each other out, which is absolutely crazy. But I'll be covering all the action as it goes down, so make sure you're subbed and have notifications on. I'd really appreciate it. It's going to be a wild day in Belgrade, and I can't wait to see who makes it through. But as always, thanks for watching. Take care.